participate in this public hearing on the National Nuclear Security Administration's draft supplemental environmental impact statement for producing tritium in Tennessee Valley Authority commercial light water reactors. I hope you had an opportunity to browse through the material that's provided and to talk to project staff during the just completed open house. My name is Barry Lawson, and I will serve as the neutral moderator for this meeting. My role this evening is to ensure that the meeting runs on schedule and that everyone has an adequate opportunity to speak. After you went through the registration table and on the shelf over the side, there were some fact sheets, comment forms, and other information. If you did not pick up some information, please do so before you leave this evening. There are two parts to this meeting. The informal segment began with the open house and continues after my remarks with a welcome and a presentation by Curtis Chamberlain of the National Nuclear Security Administration. He will present a brief overview of the tritium production program and the draft SEIS. The development of the SEIS is one of the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, often called NEPA. Mr. Chamberlain is the document manager, meaning that he has been responsible for ensuring that the SEIS accurately presents the range of impacts of producing tritium in TVA's reactors. The formal segment of the meeting will begin following Mr. Chamberlain's presentation. And during the formal segment, members of the public will offer comments on the SEIS. The court reporter, who will be here by then, we trust, will make a verbatim record of your comments. There will be no exchange of questions and answers. The NNSA officials here will be to listen to your comments, will not be engaging in dialogue during that segment. After the program is open, or if we have a recess, there'll be opportunities to talk with people at that point. Now, if you wish to make a comment during the formal comment segment and haven't yet signed up, please do so at the registration table, as I will be recognizing speakers as their names appear on the registration list that's provided to me. In advance, I urge you to make your comments concise and to the point of the content of the SEIS. If you have a longer written document, as often people do, please summarize those comments orally, but submit the whole written document in its entirety. This concludes the summary of the agenda and the meeting format. I thank you for your cooperation in making this a productive and respectful meeting, and I look forward to your participation. At this point, I'd like now to introduce Curtis Chamberlain, who will give a presentation on the SEIS, and then after that, we will take a short break so that we can get set up for the formal segment. Curtis?
Thank you, Barry. Can everybody hear me? Are we back? Hey, can you hear me? Good. It's not a very big room, and I haven't been in the military. I can hear your voice. So I'd like to thank the people from the Oak Ridge Environmental Peace Alliance for being out here today. Matter also for being out here and videotaping this. I really appreciate the time and effort that I know some of you have traveled a great distance to come down here this evening, and so I really appreciate the time and effort that you've come out here. I know a number of you have signed up to speak, and so the inputs that we get from this meeting, we had a meeting yesterday in Athens, Tennessee. I also get written comments, and I've gotten a couple of email comments from people across the nation, but we take all of those into consideration, and we'll address those in our final SEIS that we plan to publish by the end of the calendar year. It's a little bit of background on the process. Now, and I know a number of you have received a copy of the document in the mail, but the full document is available on CD discs if you haven't got a copy, or if you'd like the whole document, we have those available on a CD disc. NNSA, we're the federal agency that's responsible for maintaining the nuclear weapons stockpile. As part of each nuclear weapon design, tritium is a very key important, I won't say component, but a very key material in those nuclear weapon designs. One of the things about tritium It has a 5.5-year decay rate, so it has a 12.5-year life. So that means after 12.5 years, half the tritium you started out with will be left available. Because of that, we have to replenish the tritium on a periodic basis. And so, as part of the background, I think probably a number of people are aware here. In 1989, we shut down our K reactor at Savannah River site, so we didn't have a ready source for manufacturing tritium or producing tritium. And so, because of the cost involved, a lot of things that went on, the decision was made in 1999 to produce tritium in a commercial light water reactor that the TVA, a partner federal agency, maintains to produce tritium. So in May 1999, as I have on the slide here, the record of decision was that to produce tritium, the Watts Bar Unit 1 and also Sequoya's Units 1 and 2 are part of the backup plan to do that. In 2002, the TVA received license amendment requests from the NRC to produce tritium in these three nuclear reactors. So since 2003, we kicked off the program with 30 rods in Watts Bar 1. And we've been doing this since the last 11 years. On this slide, I show what I call the tritium program footprint across the nation. In the upper left-hand corner, not showing up, PNNL, Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in Richland, Washington. And there are several members here of the design team available if anybody has questions afterwards. But PNNL is the design authority for the TP bars. West 9, located in Columbia, South Carolina, a subsidiary of Westinghouse, manufactures the TP bars, and those go into the nuclear fuel rods, which get delivered to TVA here at the Watts Bar site. Those are put in a reactor for 18-month production cycles. At the end of the 18 months, they're pulled out of the reactor and put in a cooling basin for 6 months, where a commercial transport company transports those to the Savannah River site, where eventually the TP bars are extracted. The tritium from the TP bars is extracted for meeting national security requirements. So a little bit about the TP bars. So they're used in the same place, and they take the locations of the boron burnable absorber rods, which are a safety design. The TP bars, however, use lithium-6 rather than boron. They capture the neutrons, and as part of the nuclear reaction, the tritium is produced. And the tritium that's produced is captured in getter material that's not only inside the pellets. The pellets, if you look at our display over here, the pellets are a hollow cylinder. So there's getter material inside the hollow cylinder and also surrounding the lithium-6. The getters do a really good job of capturing the tritium, but they don't quite capture it all. So you see on this picture a cutaway of what a TP bar looks like. So these are 12 feet long, but they look about like a pencil, as you see over there, except 12 feet long. And the getter material does a really good job of capturing the tritium, but it doesn't capture all of that. And that the tritium that escapes is we call permeation. So the tritium that permeates through the boundaries of the TP bar ends up in the reactor cooling water. TVA manages the reactor cooling water and report what they release to the NRC to make sure that they maintain the limits that they're required to have on the Watts Bar reactor. When this project was initially started, the studies, the analysis, the in-reactor studies, a lot of this, on the footprint slide, we did a lot of work with the Idaho National Laboratory research reactor, where a lot of analysis was going on how the TP bars would perform. And so based on that analysis, it indicated that we would permeate about 1 curie per TP bar per year into the reactor cooling water. As soon as we got into the reactor with the real live operational TP bars, we discovered we were about 4 curies per TP bar, which is a very a very small amount when you consider that each TP bar produces 10,000 curies nominally during its life in the reactor. So why did we prepare this SEIS? The primary reason was to analyze the environmental impacts of the 4 curies of tritium versus the 1 curie of tritium that was initially postulated or analyzed. And then we're also interested in what the environmental impacts are based on increasing the number of TP bars. As I said, we've been working on this since 2003, and we're eventually getting to the point of the number of TP bars that we need to support national security. There's also been a number of changes to the regulatory, environmental, and operating conditions since 1999. For example, the population density is a little greater today than it was in 1999. And some of the limits have changed, so we took all those into consideration. Some of the modeling, newer modeling is available. So we've used all of that in our draft SEIS. The purpose of this meeting, and I know some of the members here of the Bridge Environmental Compliance, you've been to a number of public meetings that the NNSA has, but we're here to receive public comments that you have, and we will consider all comments. We do consider all comments received, and we'll make changes appropriate in our final document. A little bit of the background. So 2011, we published a notice of intent. We came out to Athens, Tennessee. I believe Ralph was there. We had a public scoping meeting back in 2011. We've been working on this document since then. August 8th, we published it in the Federal Registry, or made it available through an announcement in the Federal Registry. That started our 45-day comment period. So right now, that's what we're in, the public comment period. The public comment period will end September 22nd. And as I mentioned, the plan right now is to finish the draft, to have a final SEIS by late this winter. And 30 days after that, which sometime the end of January into February, we plan to have a record of decision. This is the content of the SEIS. All the things we looked at. So in our draft SEIS, we considered 6 actionable alternatives. We looked at a range of operating parameters from the Watts bar site only producing 2,500 TP bars to both sites producing a maximum of 5,000 TP bars. So one of the things you might ask is how do we pick those numbers, 2,500 and 5,000? So 2,500 is what we think is the upper limit at this point. When we look at what the tritium requirements are for national security and how many TP bars we need, what's the tritium requirement to support that stockpile, 2,500 TP bars seems to be just about what we would need. The 5,000 is basically double the 2,500, and that assumes that we miss a cycle or we miss a couple of cycles, and that gives us the opportunity to catch back up, because once I don't have that production, then it's very difficult to make that up. That's basically a contingency should we miss a cycle in meeting our requirements. And then we also considered no action in the status quo alternative, and that would where we would just keep doing the numbers that we're doing now at Watts bar 1, Sequoia 1 and 2. I might want to mention that alternative 1 is our preferred alternative, which is to maintain tritium production strictly at the Watts bar site and to keep that in one reactor. And at this point, that's our preferred alternative. Here's all the areas that the resource areas that we analyzed in our SEIS: land, air quality, social justice, transportation, accidents. So more importantly, what are the conclusions that we got out of our analysis? And tritium releases, even with the higher numbers, even with the 4 curies per TP bar, these are what we've calculated, and I want to mention that this is, what we did is we assumed 10 curies of permeation per TP bar instead of what the 4 curies that we've normally seen. And we were assuming 5,000 TP bars instead of 2,500, which is what our expected requirement is going to be. So the one chance in 100,000 is based on those upper parameters. So, likely would be less than this. And then for the public, would be 1 in 2.5 million chance of latent cancer fatality. EPA, so the EPA has a drinking water standard. That drinking water standard for tritium is 20,000 picocuries per liter. Drinking water inlets, even with a higher permeation, we would be about a tenth of that limit. We looked at increased TP bars and the permeation on the reactor facilities. Essentially, potential accidents remain the same. Intentional destructive accidents, no worse than other bounding accidents. And one of the things that we would have is we would have a little bit more spent fuel generation, and those are the numbers for how much more spent fuel. And TVA has the infrastructure in place to manage that increased number of volume of spent fuel. In our record of decision, we'll consider all aspects, technical, policy, cost, and certainly cost is a very key component of what's going to go in the record of decision. In our record of decision, we'll announce how many TP bars we plan to irradiate per fuel cycle, and then which reactors would be used. And at this point, like I said, the first alternative one is 2,500, no more than 2,500 TP bars in the watts bar of one reactor. I think a number of you have seen this. There's ways to provide us comments, and these come directly to me. You can mail them to me. I've gotten a couple of responses in the mail. You can email them to me. That's an email address that I've also got a couple of comments to. That comes directly to me. Or you can fax them to me, and I have a fax number. They're on the bottom. And as I mentioned, the public comment period ends September 22nd. Last thing I want to mention is that Sequoia NRC will be out here next week, September 17th. They will be in Saudi Daisy. They will be having a public meeting on the Sequoia relicensing, and the NRC contact asked me to provide this information for those of you that are interested in attending the NRC public license meeting next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.